Turning pages of yellowed photographs transports me to times I wasn't yet alive for, rowing through sepia-toned waters of family memories. It was a drizzly afternoon when I first began my peculiar exploration of the massive albums I'd found in Grandma's attic. Each photograph carried with it whispers of stories that were once as lively as the people in them, but are now reduced to static images kept together by worn-out leather and fragile spines. Grandma had passed last fall, and the family gathered to sift through relics of her life, while others focused on the jewelry, crockery, and little delicate oddities that an old woman accumulates over a lifetime. I climbed up to the attic. Blanketed in dust and the dense smell of old papers, the attic felt like a forgotten museum. There was a bittersweet serenity up there, the kind you associate with places that have long been undisturbed. I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I found it. A stack of archaic family photo albums threaded with silverfish. Hours passed as I pored over images, my fingers tracing the lines of faces now long gone. As the sun dissolved behind clouds, the attic sunk into a muted hue, reinforcing the sensation I was alone with swatches of an enigmatic past. It was then, pausing over a picture of my parents' wedding from 1972, that I noticed him, an unfamiliar man standing just outside the frame, his eyes burrowing into the scene with a smile so benign yet somehow unsettling. The edges of his figure bled into the background, his presence puzzlingly clear yet easily overlooked. I squinted at the ominous figure, etched neatly behind a row of faded tuxedos and tulle. He looked ordinary, an unassuming man with slick-back hair and a well-fitted suit. Still, there was something in his eyes. They held a depth, a knowingness that felt as though it reached out from the decades just to hook into my soul. Curious, I asked my mother about him during our evening coffee. "Who is this?" I showed her the picture, pointing to the smudge of humanity amongst the cheer of the nuptial assemble. She peered at it over her glasses, her forehead creasing with thought. "I don't know. Must be a guest we don't remember. There were so many at the wedding, you see." Her answer was vague, her attention quickly shifting back to her mug and the warmth radiating from the cup on that frigid evening. Dismissive, yet something in her tone hinted at a fracture of doubt. I found it strange, though, something that haunted me even after I moved away from the confined space of those dusty albums. The strangeness of that stranger clung to my thoughts far longer than it should have. I'd hoped to banish the notion of him as the mere happenstance of photographic archives. It wasn't until months later, when I was clearing out my old boxes filled with other memorabilia, high school yearbooks and scrapbooks, that I felt the tug again. As I leafed through my high school graduation pictures, I saw him standing among a crowd of strangers, same eyes, same smile. This spectral man emerged once more in a new time, an intruder intermingling with barely remembered school acquaintances. My skin prickled with a static fright, while panic dripped down from my chest to my fingertips. I threw the photograph aside, breath shaky and hands trembling. I hugged myself tighter against the room's sudden chill as my thoughts turned to tremors of suspicion. This repeated presence of his felt wrong, calculated as if it taunted me with deliberate coyness. Over the next few weeks, I delved deeper into the albums again, driven by a compulsion that bordered on obsession. Evenings drowned in dim halogen lights, I unearthed more buried images, birthdays, reunions, random candid snapshots. Each photo yielded the same uncanny lurker, orbiting timelines he shouldn't. An outsider who wasn't out of place, because he blended too perfectly with shadows and smiles. His placement seemed strategic, always in the periphery, always part of the picture without being part of the moment. Every time I unearthed another image featuring him, the same questions recycled in my mind. Who was he? Why was he there? Why did his gaze quiet the rooms he'd spectated, injecting something undeniably wrong into fond recollection? As weeks trundled by, sleep eluded me. Nights lost their tranquility, replaced by blurry echoes of that persistent grin. I found myself haunted by dreams of him, dreams where I'd wander endless hallways constructed from family photographs, his eyes ever watchful, like stars obscuring the night sky. Seeking clarity, I brought the matter up during our next family gathering. My voice quivered with a mix of determination and unease as I unveiled the stranger's recurrence. "Does anyone remember this man?" I asked, my voice slightly foreign from weeks of insomnia. I spread the photos across the living room coffee table, and tension hummed through each snap of memory, images tainted with the enigma of the smiling man. With familial eagerness, attention diverted from chatter to search for answers. Their reactions were almost uniform. An initial spark of faint recognition crumbled quickly into puzzlement. Each took turns with the photographs, their collective brows furrowed, twisting with the same blend of curiosity and apprehension. My sister, ever the pragmatist, even chuckled at the absurdity while glossing the edges of a picture from 1968, where he stood among a group of park visitors. "Maybe he's like a family ghost," she teased, trying to temper the growing tension, but even I could see her discomfort. But it was my father's reaction that caught the glimmers of attention, lingering longer on each picture than necessary. His eyes darkened, and after an uncomfortable pause, he took to the old album Grandma had kept guarded all those years, a single album replete with yet unsolved stories. He rifled through the pages with urgency until settling on a photo dated 1938. There he was again, the same unaging man, undistorted by time's passage. Amid my great-grandparents' black and white wedding picture, barely distinguishable yet tearing through the narrative with ruthless inconsistency. No letters or names in the family tree clarified his presence. No anecdote graced our oral history with explanations. But there, stitched within the very fibers of our lineage, was his smile, an ancestral callback ciphered in the bridge of our noses. The room felt heavy as the realization caught up with us, a chilling connectivity beyond our understanding. Confounded and desperate, my father quietly committed to delving into our genealogy. Days stretched on as he combed through documents, obituaries, and records, while I, conversely, descended further into mysterium, each night haunted by his presence, every noise at the edge of darkness thrumming like a threat. The shards of security slowly crumbled until, suddenly, incoherently, it happened. An abrupt dislocations in time, a solitary afternoon when I uncovered the final answer hidden within the fraying threads of our bloodline. In a letter lost to forgotten decades, the revelation came, not in the form of solace but in realization. Written by an unnamed ancestor, it detailed a pact, ancient and shadowy, a covenant obscured with generations past. The letter spoke cryptically of a man destined to be forgotten by name but never by visage, a keeper of lineage, a seeker of fulfillment through blood's continuity. And then my breath hitched on a chilling stroke of awareness. Recognizable distinctly in the scrawled script, it was preserved by more than unfit language. A humble phrase at the end held the truth: "Trust the guys, he is one of us. We are one in the same." We, his descendants, keepers of expressions, but also of an unsettling legacy that conjoined us by bridge of nose and silent understanding. His smile wasn't asylum, it was contentment, a reminder. In quiet resignation, I released the photograph, and it found its place among the others on the table. My eyes swept the room and for the first time acknowledged family framed by potentiality and debt. As the wind clattered against the window panes, his spectral whispers echoed through, binding our vigilance, unyielding across years. There, amidst the laughter and clatter of ordinary family life, a queer sense of order reclaimed its place. No one said anything. No one needed to. Each gaze reflected the same hidden resolution, an eclipse, fearful yet oddly serene. The stranger, the centerpiece of disjointed gatherings, was no phantom, no stranger at all. Through generations, diluted in familiarity, a face, a father whom the years touched not, intertwined with ancestral whispers like the static fabric of legacy itself. The seasons shifted, lives continued as they must. And as I slowly closed the albums, newly aware of history's spectral embrace, I understood why we all bore his nose. The past had become a tether, not one we asked for but one crafted through silent conveyance, a lineage shadowed by the shared promise refracted through an endless stream of memories. And with that knowledge came relief, an acceptance deeper, rower than comfort. We continued, ever observed, living in the tender shadow of his smile, woven into an unbreakable lineage thread spun timelessly by the keeper of the unseen past.